Nowadays, businesses that need translation or localization services have several choices. They can use in-house teams, send to freelance contractors, or work with a translation service company. It can be difficult to decide which path to follow, so in this video I will talk about how both options have their own unique advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so what are the positives of using an in-house team? Using your own staff will guarantee both product knowledge and a strong awareness of correct terminology and tone of the documents. This approach will always produce a high quality product. There will be little or no learning curve involved, as the in-house team have already been immersed in the culture of the company and they share the company's vision. Potential mistakes during the early stages of a project will also be avoided due to inside knowledge of the documentation and business requirements. Now, what are the downsides of using an in-house team? Lack of translation experience means translations will take longer, increasing turnaround times and costs. Also, the lack of utilising technology, as it is unlikely a company will invest in the expensive software used by translation companies, which can lower costs by up to 30% and reduce translation time by as much as 50%. There's also lack of flexibility in several areas, including target language and project start dates. The company may only be able to complete in-house translations for certain languages, and fast turnarounds may not be possible if the in-house team is busy on other projects. There will also be limited scalability, as you will only have a certain number of people able to complete the translation project, and if they need to take on extra work, they probably won't be able to cope. There's also the cost of using in-house staff compared to the lower cost external staff. It's not only the cost of the translation, which will be slower due to the lack of experience and software, but also the hidden cost of using the staff time on translation when it could be used to increase revenue for other parts of the business. Now I'd like to take a look at the positives of using a freelancer. First of all, sourcing of professional translators for large volumes of work through the internet is very easy. Worldwide networks can work in different time zones, which create faster turnaround times for the client. It's also cheaper to use freelancers for one-off or low-volume projects. But there are some negatives in using freelancers. Good translators can be difficult to find and must be tested to determine suitability. This can be a long process and use up a considerable amount of recruitment time. Managing the project can be difficult when using freelancers in different time zones and multiple languages. You also may not be a priority. Freelancers will have work coming in from a number of sources, and there will be no guarantee you will be high up on their priority list. There's also no accountability. If they don't deliver on time or decide to go AWOL halfway through a project, there is little you can do about it. It's also unusual for freelancers to be able to afford all the latest tools and technologies to increase speed, quality and lower costs. You may get an inferior end product which has taken longer to produce and costs more overall. So we've looked at using in-house teams and working with freelancers. Now the third option is by outsourcing it through a LSP. If we take the positives first, LSPs offer centralised management and take responsibility for both the human and language resources. This takes away the time and effort needed by the company to look after their translation resources. This is particularly useful if you complete multi-language translations where the time to contact and explain each project is multiplied by the number of languages. Your company will not need to purchase costly technology required to increase speed, improve quality and lower costs, because your LSP will have all of this in-house. There's also access to a variety of expertise and language combinations that have been tested and are fit for purpose. Most LSPs will also provide a dedicated project manager who is accountable for deadlines and quality. Now there are some negatives to using an LSP. The initial cost will be higher, although this will be mitigated by the additional cost of using in-house teams or freelancers. And the translation will only be as good as the reference material you provide. Lack of this information at the beginning of a project can result in the wrong terminology being used. To sum up, there is no right or wrong answer. It's more a question of your company's needs and the level of translation you require. Smaller, simple one-off projects are probably better suited for in-house resources or for the use of freelancers, whilst more complicated, multi-language projects, which would not require the employment of a full-time team into your organisations, are better suited for LSPs. Cost is not the only factor. You should also consider the level of service, expertise, and the benefits technology could bring to your translation needs. These factors will determine the path your company should take.